Jokes. Today in this video, I'm embarking on a mission to make a Star Wars game in Unreal Engine using C++ coding language. C++ is a language I've never worked with before, as Unreal usually uses what are called blueprints for its coding. This is my original Star Wars game made in the Unity engine. It had very complex code, but the visuals and playability is really lacking. And this is my new game in Unreal. As you can see, the graphics have improved so much between the engines, and the spaceship controller is a lot more polished. It has many different methods of motion and overall is very smooth, but it took a lot to get to this point. Let's go back to when I first started working on this in Unreal Engine. I was searching for a way to make a smoother spaceship controller. I looked through lots of different tutorials, including controllers for fighter jet, but in the end I found a perfect tutorial for the base of my spaceship controller. I followed this tutorial using Unreal blueprints, which I would later on convert into C++ scripts. Then I downloaded a model from Sketchfab of a Star Wars snowspeeder. This tutorial gave me a controller that worked mostly. It had a lot of bugs to start off with, and for some reason shot the player up into space when the game started. So this was my first iteration of my game. After making my first iteration, I turned to some classmates to test my game and point out any flaws. One of the main issues with the game from playtesters was the glitchy, unstable snowspeeder controller, which was at some points unplayable and crashed the engine. Some other points were adjusting speed and some controls. So the improvements I made were first fixing most of the bugs with the controller and making it not shoot to space. I then tweaked some of the controls, such as the throttle up and down from Q and E to W and S. So when W is pressed, it will increase the throttle and speed up the ship. And if S is pressed, it will decrease the throttle and slow it down. Another thing I improved based on the feedback was the speed of the snowspeeder. The actual speed was not something I was in control of, as it was just increased and decreased with the throttle. I could shorten the acceleration time and deceleration speeds in the code. These changes resulted in a slightly smoother iteration of the controller, which was the beginnings of my second iteration. In my second iteration, I recreated the snow planet Hoth from Star Wars, which my game would primarily be based in. I handmade the Hoth hangar based off of images from the movie. I also hand sculpted a lot of the snow to match how it looks in the film. Some of the main pieces of feedback I received from my classmates' playtests include an issue with glitching through the floor and other objects, as well as adding more of a UI to my game with features to show the throttle and speed of the snowspeeder. And the last bits of feedback I received was to make the snowspeeder be able to shoot missiles and lasers. All of these features are going to be very hard to implement, as I will have to make them custom with my own code. So the first improvement I'm going to make is... Unfortunately, the last 2 weeks I had to work on the game were gone, as one of the most evil bumps in the road hit me at the worst possible moment in time. Here's my final iteration. All I could add to my final game while my sickness slowly took over. I was able to work on a little bit of the level design, adding to what I already had, so that was all I could really get around to adding. Without further ado, here is my final game made using Unreal Engine with C++ coding language. I think my game worked out alright, but not as good as I think I'm capable of making. I think a lot more focus and time put into this project would have benefited it a lot, and the final product could be exactly how I pictured it. But I think my game turned out not too bad. Thanks for watching. Bye.